He thought I was just his brother, until I revealed the truth. One secret, one night, and our family shattered forever. Would you have told him? I always thought my family was ordinary. We weren't rich, but my parents worked hard, and I grew up believing they loved me and my younger brother more than anything. My brother was born when I was just 15, and everyone in our small town called him the miracle baby. My parents had struggled for years to conceive again after me, and when he finally arrived, it was like a blessing from heaven. But here's the thing. From the moment he was born, something always felt strange. The way my mom hovered over him, the way she insisted I help more than a sister normally would, and how people in our family whispered behind closed doors when they thought I couldn't hear. I brushed it off, told myself I was imagining things. After all, what could possibly be wrong with loving your brother, right? Still, deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was a secret no one wanted me to know. The first real crack in the illusion came when I was 17. One evening, my mom had asked me to babysit my brother while she ran errands. No big deal. I'd done it hundreds of times before. But when she left, I noticed she'd left behind a folder on the kitchen counter. It was thick, stuffed with papers and photos, the kind of thing you don't just leave lying around if it isn't important. Curiosity got the better of me. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. Inside were hospital records, birth certificates, and adoption papers. At first, my brain couldn't even process what I was reading. My brother wasn't my brother at all. He was my son. My knees buckled, and I remember clutching the counter to keep from falling. I flipped page after page, and the story came together like a nightmare. When I was 15, I had gotten pregnant after a relationship I was too young and naive to fully understand. My parents had forced me to hide the pregnancy from everyone. When the baby was born, they took over completely, presenting him to the world as their child, not mine. And just like that, my entire life, every family photo, every birthday party, every miracle baby moment became a lie that I couldn't breathe. My chest felt tight, and my hands were shaking as I stared at those papers. Every word was a punch to the gut. Mother, my name. Father, unknown. My name was written right there in black ink, but it was hidden under years of lies. Suddenly, memories I had buried started to resurface. The months when my parents had sent me away to stay with an aunt in another city. How I had been sick all the time, wearing baggy clothes, and my mom telling everyone it was just a hormonal issue. The way the neighbors whispered but never dared to ask questions. It all clicked into place that I stumbled into the living room where my little boy, my son, was playing with toy cars on the floor. He looked up at me with his big, innocent eyes and smiled, calling me sis, just like he always had. And in that moment, my heart broke into pieces, because all I wanted to do was grab him, hold him close, and tell him the truth. But I couldn't. The worst part? My parents had never intended to tell me or him. They had erased me from my own child's story, rewriting the narrative so perfectly that no one ever questioned it. To them, I wasn't a mother. I was just an older sibling, a background character in the life they decided to script, and standing there, I realized I had been living inside their lie for years, and now I had to decide what to do with the truth I had uncovered. That I didn't sleep that night. I just sat on the floor of my room with the folder in my lap, flipping through the documents again and again, as if somehow the words might rearrange themselves into something less devastating. But no, every page was a reminder that my life had been a carefully constructed illusion. That I remembered being a teenager, how I had suddenly fallen ill and was sent away to live with an aunt in another town. Back then, I thought it was weird, but my mom told me I needed rest and space. I wasn't allowed to call friends or even go outside much. My aunt treated me kindly, but always avoided my questions. When I came back months later, the neighbors kept giving me strange looks. My parents explained it away by saying I'd been going through something. Now, with the truth in front of me, all those small, seemingly insignificant details came rushing back like floodwaters. The baggy clothes, the late-night doctor visits, my mom snapping at me whenever I asked too many questions, my dad, usually so stoic, suddenly softening whenever my baby, cried, and my little boy. God, my heart ached just thinking about it. He wasn't just my brother. He was mine, my flesh, my blood. Yet he didn't even know. He thought I was his big sister, someone to play with, to bicker with, to run to when he wanted to hide from our parents. He didn't know the truth, and my parents wanted to keep it that way. I tried to picture telling him, but then I imagined the confusion on his face, the betrayal he'd feel, the anger. And what about me? If I exposed the truth, my whole family would explode. People would know I'd been a teenage mother. My carefully built life, my friends, my job, even my boyfriend, could all crumble. My parents had made sure of that by hiding everything for so long that by the time the sun rose, I was still sitting in the same spot, exhausted but too wired to sleep. I knew one thing for certain. Nothing in my life would ever be the same again. The only question left was whether I would stay silent and protect their lie, or burn it all down by telling the truth. The morning after, I walked into the kitchen like a ghost. My parents were sitting at the table, sipping coffee, acting as though nothing had happened, as though the folder with my entire life inside wasn't hidden upstairs in my room. That I studied them both carefully. My mom, always so composed, was scrolling on her phone. My dad, stoic as usual, folded the newspaper with military precision. Their calmness made me want to scream. How could they be so normal when they had stolen something so massive from me? Finally, I broke the silence. My voice trembled, but I forced it out. Where's the folder? My mom's head snapped up instantly. Her face drained of color, and she froze like a deer caught in headlights. My dad's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing as if he could cut me down with one look. You went through things that weren't yours, my mom said flatly. Her voice low, controlled, almost cold. That I laughed bitterly. Not mine? Really? My own medical records? My own child? You think that doesn't belong to me? For the first time, my dad looked unsettled. He shifted uncomfortably in his chair, but my mom leaned forward, eyes sharp like knives. You don't understand what you're saying. We did what we had to do. We saved you. You were just a child yourself. You couldn't have raised him. Her words stung, but they also ignited something inside me. Anger. Rage. Save me? You didn't save me. You stole from me. You made me live a lie for years. You let me believe my son was my brother. The room went dead silent. My dad cleared his throat, his voice heavy and commanding. You will not tell him. Do you hear me? He is happy. He is thriving. If you dump this on him, you will ruin his life, and yours too. Do you want that on your conscience? I could barely breathe. The air in that kitchen felt thick, poisonous. They weren't denying it. They weren't even trying to comfort me. They were just doubling down, making it clear. The truth was dangerous, and I was the threat. For the first time in my life, I realized my parents didn't just keep a secret. They built an entire prison around it. And now, if I wanted freedom, I would have to be the one to break the chains, no matter who got hurt in the process. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every single moment of my so-called childhood. The family dinners, the birthdays, the school events. All those times I thought I was just an older sibling, protecting my little brother. But now? Now every memory felt poisoned. I wasn't his brother. I was his father. And every hug, every thanks, bro, every late-night talk we'd shared had a new, heavier weight to it. That I sat up in the dark, shaking. My parents' voices echoed in my head. You will ruin his life. You will ruin your life. The threat wasn't subtle. They had spent years hiding this, building walls around it. And they weren't about to let me tear those walls down. But here's the thing. Every time I looked at him, my brother, I saw the boy who trusted me most in the world. He looked up to me. He told me everything. He thought I was just his big brother who always had his back. How could I look him in the eye knowing the truth and not say anything? At the same time, I couldn't ignore the storm of fear inside me. What if telling him destroyed him? What if he never forgave me for lying, even though I never had a choice? What if my parents turned him against me the way they had twisted everything else? The pressure was unbearable. For the first time in my life, I truly felt split in two. One part of me screamed to tell him, to finally rip away the mask and give him the truth he deserved. The other part whispered in panic, keep quiet, survive, don't burn everything down. By the time the sun started creeping through my blinds, I was still wide awake. And I knew one thing for certain. Silence would eat me alive. But breaking the silence? That could destroy everything I loved. Have you ever carried a secret so heavy that it feels like it's crushing your chest with every breath you take? That's exactly where I was. Every time I looked at my brother, I wanted to scream the truth. You're not my brother. You're my son. But how could I? If I blurted it out without proof, without context, it would sound insane. He'd think I'd lost my mind, so I started planning. Late at night, when the house was quiet and my parents were asleep, I crept into the attic where they kept all the old boxes. There were stacks of photos, birth certificates, medical records, the hidden history of our family. I dug through dusty folders until my hands were blackened with dirt. And that's when I found it. A birth certificate. His birth certificate. My name wasn't on it, but neither was my dad's. It listed my mom as the mother, but the father section was blank. My heart pounded so loudly I thought it would wake the whole house. Why leave that blank unless they were hiding something? Then I found old journals, scraps of letters my mom had written but never sent. They were full of fear, shame, regret. One line made my blood run cold. If he ever finds out the truth, he'll never forgive me. That was the final confirmation, but still, I hesitated. Proof or not, how do you tell someone their entire identity has been a lie? Every memory, every relationship, every assumption about who they are, shattered in one sentence. And if I was wrong, if I had misunderstood, I'd be the villain who tore apart my family for nothing. Meanwhile, my parents had grown suspicious. They noticed me digging through old boxes, staying up late. One night my father cornered me in the kitchen and hissed through clenched teeth, "If you say a word, you're out. Don't test me." His eyes weren't just angry, they were desperate, terrified. And that was when I realized something important. If they were so desperate to silence me, then I had to be closer to the truth than even I imagined. That I knew I couldn't just blurt it out during another one of our screaming matches. If I was going to expose the truth, I needed to do it in a way that left no room for denial. My parents were masters at gaslighting, twisting words until you questioned your own memory. If I accused them without evidence, they'd spin it back on me, call me crazy, say I'd lost touch with reality. So I prepared like I was going to war. I gathered the papers I had found, the blank birth certificate, the journal entries, even some hospital receipts from the year of his birth that showed only my mother's name. I laid them out in a folder hidden beneath my mattress, rehearsing over and over how I'd reveal them. But the hardest part wasn't the evidence. The hardest part was imagining his face when I told him. How do you tell someone their whole life has been a lie? How do you explain that the man he's been calling dad isn't really his father? And that you are? I pictured the confusion, the anger, the betrayal. Would he hate me for keeping silent so long? Or hate me for daring to speak at all? The timing had to be perfect. I waited for an evening when we were all together. No distractions, no excuses to leave. Dinner was tense, as usual. My dad was drinking, my mom picking at her food nervously. I could feel my pulse hammering in my ears. Every word spoken around that table felt like static before a thunderstorm. And then it happened. My brother started talking about his future, about how much he wanted to be nothing like our dad. He laughed bitterly, saying, "I don't even know why I got stuck in this family. It's like I was born into the wrong one." That was it. The opening. The moment I couldn't ignore. My hands shook under the table as I reached for the folder hidden by my chair. I looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time, I didn't just see my brother. I saw the boy I had raised. The boy who carried half of my DNA. The boy who had a right to know who he truly was. I opened my mouth. And with a voice that trembled but cut through the silence, I said, "There's something you need to know about who you really are." The room went silent the second those words left my mouth. My mom froze with her fork halfway to her lips. My dad scoffed, shaking his head like I was about to spew another one of my crazy ideas. But my brother, he leaned forward, eyes narrowing, a nervous laugh escaping his throat. "What are you talking about?" he asked, trying to play it off, but I could see it. The way his hands clenched, the way his voice cracked. Deep down, maybe he already knew. I slid the folder onto the table. The flap opened, and the papers spilled out like a dam bursting. Hospital receipts with no father listed. A blank birth certificate. And finally, my mother's old journal entries. The ones that spoke of the mistake, of how they had to keep him safe from the truth. My brother's face went pale as he picked up the papers, flipping through them with trembling fingers. "What is this?" he demanded, his voice rising with each word. My dad slammed his fist on the table, making the plates rattle. "This is garbage. Lies." He's twisting things, like always. But his face was red, veins bulging in his neck, and for the first time, even my brother seemed to notice the desperation behind his anger. My mom broke. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, Please, stop. Don't do this here. Her voice was fragile, pleading. But I didn't stop. I couldn't. I looked my brother dead in the eyes. You're not just my brother. You're my son. They lied to both of us. The room erupted. My brother shoved back from the table, the chair screeching across the floor. What the hell are you talking about? That's impossible. He looked between me and them, his chest heaving, his whole world unraveling in front of him. My dad tried to cut in, shouting about family loyalty, but the evidence was right there on the table, undeniable. And my mom's silence. Her silence said more than any words ever could. My brother's breathing turned ragged, his hands pulling at his hair as he staggered back. He stared at me like I was a stranger, like he was trying to see the resemblance he'd never noticed before. And when his knees finally buckled, he didn't cry like a boy. He screamed like a man who had just had the ground ripped out from under him. That scream still echoes in my head. The silence after his scream was worse than the scream itself. My mom collapsed into her chair, sobbing uncontrollably, muttering over and over, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." My so-called dad just stood there, fists clenched, jaw tight, trying to salvage control of a situation that was already shattered beyond repair. But my brother, my son, he didn't look at either of them. His eyes locked on me, and for a moment, I couldn't tell if he wanted to kill me or cling to me. His face was a storm of betrayal, confusion, and something else, something raw and terrifying. Why would you wait until now?" He choked out, his voice broken. "Why would you let me grow up in this house, believing him?" He pointed a trembling finger at the man he thought was his father. "When you knew the truth all along?" I wanted to answer. I wanted to explain that I had been forced into silence, that every attempt I'd made to bring the truth into the light had been crushed by fear, by threats, by manipulation. But as I opened my mouth, nothing came out. What excuse could possibly heal a wound like this? He staggered toward the door, grabbing his jacket with shaking hands. My mom leapt up, begging him not to leave, clutching at his arm like he was slipping through her fingers. My dad barked orders like he could somehow command the world back into order. But my brother wrenched free. "I don't know who any of you are anymore," he spat, his voice low and venomous. His eyes met mine one last time, eyes so much like mine it hurt, and then he stormed out, slamming the door behind him with a sound that felt like the final nail in the coffin of the life we all pretended was normal. The house was in ruins. My mom collapsed to the floor, wailing. My dad paced like a caged animal, furious, helpless. And me? I stood there in the middle of it all, heart pounding, staring at the door my son had just disappeared through. Did I destroy him? Or did I finally set him free? That's the question that haunts me. And maybe it's the one that will haunt me for the rest of my life. Thank you for watching this story on True Tales Hub. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our next story that we post new tales twice a day, and each one comes with unexpected twists you won't see coming.